Number one, status effects and cards that apply status effects like vulnerable, weak, that type of stuff are very good. Why? Because in multiplayer, whenever you apply a status effect to an enemy, that enemy is shared between all players. So if a silent applies weak to a boss, that weakness means he's hitting both the silent and the teammate for less. Same thing applies with vulnerable. That makes cards like Thunderclap way better to take, because even if you're not going to get the most out of it from that turn because you're applying the vulnerable, your teammates still can utilize it. Same with piercing. Piercing Whale's a very good card, just making it so your team can just pretty much purely attack enemies in some fights. Same with Malaise. I think Malaise might be one of the best multiplayer cards that you can take on the silent, because it can trivialize how much damage a boss is doing to you and your team. Number two, the multiplayer specific cards are very good, and this is because usually you're getting so much for such a low cost as far as energy that you're spending, but the benefits are so good. They're like exponential for the team. But I will say it is important when you're playing multiplayer that you prioritize becoming sustainable yourself first, because if you take multiplayer cards but you're just dying all the time, you're not going to be that useful to your teammates. So you want to make sure you built up a deck that works on its own, but then adding in cards that are multiplayer are very good. Cards like Energy Surge are pretty good to take at any point. That's a defect specific one that gives you and your teammates a bunch of energy for one energy spent by the defect, so it's very good. Flanking is a card specific to the silent that might be better to take later because it requires quite a bit of energy unless you upgrade it, and your team might not even be doing that much damage. It might not be necessary early, but later on it's very strong. It depends on where you and your teammates are at, but the multiplayer cards are very good. Okay, so the next tip is that sometimes it's pretty valuable for you to specialize into a certain thing. What do I mean by that? For example, I had a run where a buddy he didn't take any attacks after like the end of the first act. He was just purely going into this tree where he was just drawing cards and trying to play flanking every turn on the silent, allowing me and my teammates to do double damage. He also had a burst so that he'd double up that flanking, so it was 4 times as much damage, and he would just block and draw, and that's all he did. And the run was super easy because we were all doing 4 times the amount of damage. So sometimes it's valuable to specialize in certain things if it's working and the team needs it. Okay, tip number 4, if you suck, if you're dying a lot, then just stack all your good resources on one player who's carrying you guys right now. I think that gives you and your teammates the best chance of making it further into your run, and it also gives you the best chance of finding the cards and relics you need to make it so that you're not dying as much. So it's important to stack the good stuff on the guy who's actually keeping the run going. Otherwise your runs are all just going to end short. You got to give yourself a chance. Tip number 5, this kind of goes along the same vein. If you know you're going to die in a fight, maybe you're not dying all the time, but you know you're going down. Do everything that you can before you die to make the fight easier for your teammate. So this includes using your potions, because when you die you can't use potions, so maybe giving your teammate a potion that turn that they can use helps them throughout the rest of the fight, or just for that turn if it's going to be a scary fight that you don't think you're going to finish, or just going all damage. If you know you're going down, you can't block it, you have no other options, and they can't help you with their stuff, just go all damage, do as much as you can before you go down. That kind of stuff can make a difference in you losing in that fight or winning that fight and making it a little bit further. Tip number 6 kind of goes back to the beginning of the run, but and maybe not may not be something people think of, but I think team comp in this game does matter. Which climber, which spire, slayer, whatever you want to call them, you choose to be is important, because they specialize in different things. Like for example, we all know the Ironclad does a ton of. He has a lot of vulnerable cards. Silence pretty good at applying weak. The Necrobinder has some strength reduction cards that he has in his pool. He also can apply vulnerable and weak. Defect can do a little bit of both as well. So I think it's important to kind of consider synergies between teammates. Now, I'm not saying you should always just play that way. I think it is fun to mix it up, maybe do a double Ironclad run and stuff like that. I think that's also very fun, but just another tip to consider if you're really trying to win, if you're trying to get to A10 and give yourself your best chance in the shortest amount of time possible, your team comp can matter. And just building off of that, at this point, after having played the game for 65 plus runs of multiplayer, I do think the silent is probably the strongest. If you're really trying to win, she's got so many cards that make enemies do less damage, and she can also do so much damage herself. Poison's very good in a lot of fights, and if you have 2 silents and you're stacking up poison, that's very strong. And so she would probably be my recommendation if you're really trying to sweat and win. Tip number 7, do your best to coordinate you and your teammates' relics and potions. What do I mean by that? Maybe, for example, early game, you're at Niao, you guys are both offered one of the money relics or the same money relic. Maybe that means you should take that and go to an early shop. because if one takes it and the other doesn't, then you're kind of misaligned on when you need things. You want to align and coordinate your relics as best as possible so that you're maximizing the value of every floor. So maybe you both take the money relic and take an early shop, or maybe you're playing Regent and you're going into the Sovereign Blade builds. You have a lot of Forge cards, but you got a flex pot. And you have a silent teammate who's getting into shivs. Don't use the flex pot on yourself in a fight when you need the damage. We use it on your teammate when they have a ton of shivs in their hand so that they can do a ton of damage. So basically, I just want you to put the relics in a position, put the relics and the potions in a position to be the strongest that they can be. Tip number 8, this is a really big one, and this doesn't just apply exclusively to multiplayer. I think it's really important to multiplayer, but it also applies to your single player runs. You need to build your decks around the problems you're going to be facing. And what are the problems you're going to be facing? Number 1 is the boss of the act. Who is the boss of the act? What is their mechanic? What do they do? What cards can I take along with my teammate to answer the problem that they present? And the other problems you're going to be facing, big ones, are the elites that you face that floor. So what are their mechanics? What do they do? What cards can I take now and alongside my teammate that will help us solve the problem that those elites present? In multiplayer, that means you're coordinating what your guys' decks do. For example, the Ironclad might take let's say you're in Underdogs and you know you're going to fight the Phantasmal Gardeners in Act 1. And you're Ironclad and you're offered a Vulnerable, and maybe you wouldn't normally take Vulnerable in your solo runs. Maybe you just spec into doing a ton of damage to one target, but you know that your teammate just took a Dagger Spray, and you've been offered this Thunderclap. And so you take the Thunderclap so that your Dagger Spray, the Silenced Dagger Spray, is way more effective. And you also have AoE yourself that applies vulnerable to all the enemies specifically for that fight. Or you could do the same, maybe you're in Overgrowth and you're about to fight the Kin, so you know you need AoE damage. Taking a Thunderclap would also be very good. And then, tell your teammate, oh, you got offered a Dagger Spray, definitely take that. That'll help you win your fights more consistently when you think ahead about what you're going to be encountering and take according to those needs. Okay, so my 9th tip is to try and make every floor as valuable as possible for not only you, but for your teammate. So what does that look like? I feel like this mainly applies to events in shops. So let's say you and your teammate go to a shop, and your teammate's like, oh, this is an amazing shop, and they blow all their money. It might be worth it for you to do the same, even if the options are kind of meh, to take a meh relic so that you guys are still aligned on how much gold you have. So that when you go to your next shop, it's as valuable as it can be for both you and your teammate, and not just one or the other. That way you're not wasting floors going to more shops than you need to, which gives you less chances to become more powerful as a team. So aligning how much gold you spend can be important. And maybe if you're at an event and your teammate's like, oh, I'm going to lose my HP to do this option, maybe you do the same, so that when you both go to a campfire, you can rest and maximize the amount of health you're getting. And the events vary, but just try, I think aligning what you need, your needs is very useful, so that your pathing makes sense and you can grow stronger as quickly as possible. Okay, this is the 10th tip, and honestly, I think probably the most important one, and this is and it's going to sound cliche, communicating and doing math. There have been so many times I've lost so much health on a floor, or my teammate has, when I didn't need to, and that's simply because we just didn't talk about what we were doing with our turns, and communicated what options we had available to us. And this is especially important in the early game, I think, when you're fighting those early fights, being like, hey, I have Bash this turn, can you just kill this guy so that we don't have to block? Because I'm not going to be able to block. I'm going to take a ton of damage, because your teammate might be on autopilot and see, oh, this enemy's doing 11 damage. I'm just going to auto block. But they also have a bunch of strikes in their hand and could have finished the enemy if you'd put a vulnerable on them. So coordinating, saying, hey, I have this in my hand, and if you're a teammate who doesn't have something immediately that you want to do, just waiting and analyzing what's happening, using both of your decks together so that you're not wasting your resources, because your health is a super valuable resource. You want to be able to keep as much of that as you can throughout the act, minimize your resting so you can maximize how many upgrades you get. So communicate, ask yourself at the beginning of every turn, be like, hey, can we kill this guy this turn? Can we take him out so that I don't have to block? And if you can't, then okay, just be like, choose a different path. Be like, all right, well, I've only got one block card. I'm going to take a ton of damage. Your teammates could be like, oh, okay, here, take the speed potion. So just do the communicating, do the math. If you're not doing that, your runs are going to be rough. And that's, the more people you have in your team, the harder it's going to be. Because if you have 4 people just kind of all playing solitaire, doing their own thing, and not coordinating what's happening every turn, enemies just you're going to get overwhelmed. That's been my experience. The less people you have, I think the smaller of a problem this is, but it's still valuable because you can still, it's all about min-maxing. You can still maximize how much health you get out of that fight with. You can minimize how much damage you take. So that's probably my most important tip. And the same applies to pathing. You want to make sure every floor we're both getting good stuff from this, not just one or the other, which is usually true, but sometimes it's not. Those are all my tips. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know. God bless you. I hope to catch you in the next one. See ya.